Hello, welcome to my talk and welcome home for this 2021 OW2 Online Annual Conference. My name is Bruno Dillenseger and I'm working for the Innovation Division of the Orange Telecommunication Operator, where I'm currently in charge of performance management for the Maison Connectée Home IoT service. Today I'm going to talk about the CLIF performance testing toolset, introducing a new graphical user interface based on web technologies. First, let me tell you a little bit about CLIF. CLIF is OW2's project dedicated to performance and load testing. CLIF provides load injectors to submit flows of requests to a system under test according to a variety of network protocols. CLIF provides also probes to monitor usage of computing and networking resources. And CLIF comes with an integration to the Jenkins automation server for automating performance test execution and reporting, as well as an integration to the Eclipse Rich Client platform, since CLIF's main graphical user interface is based on Eclipse. And finally, CLIF also provides a command line interface. CLIF supports outstanding load injection capabilities in terms of large-scale distributed load injection, as well as unlimited number of virtual users. CLIF is extensible in Java to add support for new network protocols and probes. All it takes to run a CLIF performance test is one or several computing nodes, be they physical or virtual machines or containers, with a Java virtual machine version 8 or greater. The CLIF project was started almost 20 years ago and now provides a set of proven tools dedicated to performance testing. CLIF has been involved in a number of success stories, including today for managing performance of Orange Maison Connectée service. I would like to underline that CLIF is absolutely pure open source, with no paying or hidden feature, piece of code, build chain, or management utility. Everything about CLIF is available from OW2 services. Now, thinking about the respectable age of CLIF, we may wonder about its deprecation. Well, I would say that the CLIF tool suite is still globally performing well, especially as far as text execution support is concerned. But when it comes to the main graphical user interface that we call the CLIF console based on Eclipse RCP, we must admit that its maintenance requires significant work and that finding contributors with appropriate skills is not simple. Today, the CLIF console requires an old version of Eclipse, which works only with Linux or Windows 7. So, what about a web user interface for CLIF? Today, if we take a look around, we see that popular and successful tools are mostly based on web technologies. Why? Because they provide software as a service solutions, instantly available without any installation, and they naturally allow for remote access and sharing. From the skills point of view, users are used to interact with their favorite web browser, and today's developers are keen and trained on web development. So, a web-based project is likely to find more users and more contributors. Now, if we consider more specifically the CLIF case and our experience in DevOps project, we see that successful tools are typically free and web-based. Free tools because their deployment is easier, cheaper, and suitable for automation. Web-based for the same reasons I've just mentioned. This makes a CLIF web user interface a strategic asset to renew the relevance of CLIF and better address DevOps usage. As a matter of fact, CLIF is typically in the crossroad between dev and ops jobs. First, performance and load tests provide developers with debugging and optimization feedback for their application under stress conditions, while providing ops with sound hints for sizing the production infrastructure. Then, load tests are of major interest to ops, also to prepare for live upgrades of some components in production by performing rehearsals over a test platform, but still in stress conditions. Continuous light performance tests over production provide ops with quality of experience monitoring. And of course, writing any kind of test scenario with CLIF requires to interact with developers and architects to identify and implement relevant call flows. These test scenarios, may not only be used as performance tests, but also as integration tests to help devs and ops to check a platform installation. So we definitely that in the DevOps context, you have to share common tools. Now let's have a quick demo of CLIF web user interface. One of the key features first is the project browser with a very common navigator area on the left of the screen. So basically a CLIF project is a folder gathering all files for one or several performance tests, typically test plans, scenarios, but also datasets, as well as test results. And CLIF Web UI supports browsing CLIF projects in a given CLIF workspace, and what is important to underline is that these workspaces are fully compatible with workspaces that are managed and created with the Eclipse-based CLIF console, so making the translation totally transparent. And of course, as far as projects are concerned, import and export features are available to import or export just files or full projects. Then another key feature is the scenario edition. In CLIF, scenario defines the behaviors and the number of virtual users. This scenario editor, just like the old Eclipse-based console, provides XML edition with content wizards, auto-completion, and folding summary. Folding summary means that if you have a piece of behavior that is folded, you can have a summary of what it contains. What is new is that also we give now the possibility of a YAML-based edition for people who are allergic to XML. A third key feature is the test plan edition. So what is a CLIF test plan? It's basically a list of load injection scenarios and of probes that you want to deploy on some nodes on your network for your test infrastructure. And the CLIF web user interface provides such a test plan editor as plain text, like current Eclipse-based console. And it provides also a YAML view and edition also, which is very convenient because it organizes the load injectors and the probes per node, deployment node, which is very convenient to read. And we also provide now for this new interface a test plan creation wizard, so you can easily generate a test plan from a scenario you want to deploy. And finally, the CLIF Web UI also provides test run features, so you can deploy a test and run a test. You have access to some live monitoring in terms of displaying some metrics about the request, about the workload, response times, throughput, and also errors. And when the test is complete, you automatically get a global statistical report, and then you can also push your test results, so the measurements about response times and also measurements from probes about resources usage, you can push all this data to an Elasticsearch instance. Okay, now, so finally, what is the status of CLIF Web UI? Well, I would say that it is globally functional, although it should be considered still as work in progress. However, remember that CLIF Web UI is just an interface over a regular proven CLIF runtime. So if you encounter some troubles, it's just a matter of interface, of web user interface that has to be improved, but there is no worry about the quality of the tests and the compatibility of the tests themselves. We are now using CLIF Web UI and will gradually harden and improve it with regard to scenario and test plan edition, as well as test plan deployment and execution. As far as analysis of test results is concerned, we'll focus our efforts on Kibana and Grafana dashboards based on test measurements that now can be gathered in Elasticsearch. Then we will have to harden multi-user aspects, and we are also thinking about providing Git repository management for CLIF project within a CLIF Web UI workspace. Note that we also plan to integrate a Prometheus exporter in CLIF runtime to allow for monitoring performance test metrics with common popular tools like Prometheus and Grafana. Okay, I'm done now with this presentation. Thank you for your attention. I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope some of you will be interested in getting more details about CLIF and its web UI. So there is here the URL to the main CLIF website. And please don't hesitate to contact me by email using the CLIF mailing list or my professional address. Thanks again, and have a nice OW2 Conference 21. Goodbye.